Hey there, a very warm welcome to one and all for this week's Tech Teachers webinar on what's new in Informatica Axon Data Governance version 7.2.x. This is Linda, your host for today's session, and we have Pradeep GN, Senior Product Manager, and Ian Stahl, Senior Director of Product Management Team as the presenters for this session. Before we start the webinar, let's go through some housekeeping tips. The webinar is for 1 hour that includes a 15-minute Q&A. You can post your queries in the Q&A box and we'll try and answer them. Dial-in participants are muted for the entire session. The session is being recorded and will be available in the Informatica Support YouTube channel and the Success portal. You'll be able to download the slide deck from the Success portal. Also, feel free to put in your feedbacks and suggestions for the session in the post-webinar survey. The Tech Tuesdays webinars are hosted within the Success portal, which is a micro-learning platform that offers free and unlimited learning to all registered users. This feature-rich platform was launched to help you learn and use Informatica products better. Here are a few important links that you can go over later that will help you in your product adoption journey with Informatica. Over to you, Pradeep and Ian. Thank you.
Thanks, Vrinda. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for folks joining in from across the globe. Myself, Pradeep. I'm working as a senior product manager with Informatica, and I take care of Axon data governance product. Today in this session, I'll be walking you through the key new features or the capabilities which are introduced in 7.2x series of the product in the last 1 year. A quick safe harbor before we start on. Here is the release timelines of Axon product in the last 1 year. We had 7.2 released in April 2021. After that, we had 3 releases, the minor releases of 7.2.1, 7.2.2, and 7.2.3, which was in a gap of 3 months apart. And July 2021 was the 7.2.1, which was released. Later on, October 2021 is 7.2.2, and Jan 2022 is the 7.2.3. In 2022, we have a major release, which is 7.3, which is planned in June, and later in the year, in December, it is the 7.3.1. All our releases are majorly focusing on 4 key areas. Irrespective of the order, we take up the 4 priority areas or the focus areas from the customer implementation point of view, how the data governance or the success of the data governance program helps them, or even extending our core capabilities or the features from the product perspective. It could be a unison search, maps, the dashboards, the workflows. All these key areas or the key components, we extend those features to help them in the adoption. Product usability has been our topmost priority. We enhance the capabilities for the ease of use to the end users, and we try to implement more features on that front. Last but not the least is on the cross-product integrations. Axon integrates with EDC, DQ, and BPM. So we have a seamless integration there, and we try to enhance those integration capabilities by adding new resource capabilities or additional features, which helps the users integrate the end-to-end experience. A quick highlight of the features which are being delivered in Axon 7.2.1 to 7.2.3. There's a quick highlight. Later on, we'll go deeper into each of them with the screenshots, and I will give you the demo as well there. Highlights of the 7.2.1 release. We had unison improvements which were very critical for the implementations and the adoptions. And we also had the edit capability of the dashboard, which was added in 7.2.1 as part of the engaging activities. In the integration aspects, we added new resource support. EDC had the Power BI and AWS Glue already scanned, and the metadata was available. We started bringing in those metadata into the Axon. We also supported onboarding of the data sets where the duplicate systems are available. Earlier, this was not possible before 721. We added that. With respect to Axon and DQO integration in the data quality rule, we added custom fields. Earlier, the custom fields was not supported for the data quality rules. Now we added them. When it comes to net new capabilities, what we have added is the content migration, which is a key feature. Earlier to 721, there was the capability was only through the database import or the export and import options, database restoration. Now, apart from that, it was a bulk upload changes. So we have introduced content migration from lower environments to the higher environments of your system. There are a bunch of notifications management changes, and then we have the deleting of the default values from the dropdown. So let's look into each one of them in detail and see how it is. To start with the Unison enhancements, you all know that we had the hierarchy which was supported, and these hierarchy information for glossary was displayed in the object details page. And in the Unison page, we were able to provide only the parent information, that is the immediate parent and the parent type. Now, with 721, we have introduced a capability to show or display the path of the hierarchy from the top level to the current level of the object. So with this, I think you will be able to see all the hierarchy information in the Unison itself. Instead of going and opening each of the objects, you can get that in the Unison. So you might be seeing in the glossary facet, there are small arrow mark on the left-hand side panel where each of the objects can be expanded to see the path information or the hierarchy information. This is at the individual object level, and also you can do the same for all the objects in the grid. So you have at the control at the grid level to expand all or collapse all. When the lineage or the path information itself is the greater and it has a large text, we try to accommodate it within the grid sizing. Users can expand it on demand by clicking on those three dots, which gives them the complete information. Along with this, once you export on the Unison grid to an PDF or an Excel, you get an additional column called as hierarchy, which gives you the information of the complete path. Moving on, the Unison changes. You all know, right? We had Axon viewing capability that is public or non-public. This is basically to hide the information from the non-logged in users earlier. Whenever you mark the object as non-public, we never used to display it to the guest users in the sense the non-logged in users. But once the user is logged in, we display it for everybody in the Unison and participates in the search as well. With 721, we have a new system settings, which can be enabled by the system administrators or the super admins, wherein they wanted to hide the non-public objects from other users. When I say other users, any web users who are not part of the stakeholder of the object will not be able to see this. Only the stakeholders of the object and admin and super admin profile users will be able to see these records in the Unison search. The same applies to the query API as well. So it is a configuration driven. By default, it is disabled. Whenever you want, you can go and enable it, and it will be applicable across the system. Next, we have the save options in the Unison search itself. The earlier Unison search was a complete search text which can be saved. Here, the selections or the fields which is participating in your Unison search, right? Based on your preference, you can do a search and we can do a save of it. So next time when you come to the same facet and the same search operations, the fields which has to be selected are preset. Example, in the glossary, you can be having the alias name search or the ref ID or the name. These are the things. And also you have an option to reset those text search filters. It is applicable to only the text search and also the save option is available next to the text search itself. Now let's look at the data migration capability which has been added in 7.2.1. As I mentioned earlier, the previous to 7.2.1, it was the DB backup and restore, or using the bulk upload files where you can migrate the data from your dev environment or QA environment to the production environment. Now we have a capability wherein you can bring in this delta of the changes or selected objects to be migrated from your development instance to your production instance. And this is available only for admin and super admin users. And this does not include the people or the change request or the active tasks or even the physical field Axon EDC integration. These are the fields or the facets which are not in the scope. But in the roles perspective, you can get the stakeholder roles, but you cannot start with the roles itself. Let's look at it how this migration works. So any active facet which you select, it brings in all, it exports all the dependent objects, say the enforced relationships or the parents, and also it includes some of the relationships if you have selected during the export of it. Say if you have a data set X policy or a process, so it includes those dependent objects as well. When you're looking at the dependent objects, it also brings in their relationships, enforced relationships, or the parent and child relationship, at least the parent, not the child one. Now let's see how this complete data migration works in a pictorial way. So a user selects a particular object and he searches and he starts with the migration with the related objects, what the active facets objects are, what are the roles which are there. So all these dependencies are calculated by the backend, and then it exports it in the form of a zip file. The exported data bucket contains all the roles, that is the stakeholders, active facets, the one it is in the focus, and also the dependency of the relationship or the relationship bulk upload templates. In a To enable this, again, you have to see that in the environments in a section of the system settings, where the data migration is a configuration which has to be enabled by the admin or super admin. Once it is enabled, you can see in the Unison grid, there is an option called as a bulk migrate, which is next to the bulk delete or the bulk update, where what you admin or super admin sees today. And it has a two options: migrate the selected objects or to migrate the all objects. Once you select the objects and click on the bulk migrate, you get an option to select the relationship, include related objects. In this case, the system was selected, it is grayed out. Sorry, in this case, it is a data set. So that is why the system and the glossary is grayed out. It has a dependency, that is the reason. And then you have an option to export the stakeholders with respect to the roles. You have legal entity policy. You can select them and then click on the migrate option. So it will give you a zip file which contains all the bulk upload pre-filled template in the single zip file. To import it back, again, you can go back to the system admin panel, operational management. You can upload that zip file and the contents will be migrated, or contents will be present in the new or the target environment. There are certain prerequisites which needs to be taken care of. Like whenever there is a roles which have been coming into the picture, make sure the same corresponding role is already defined in the target environment. And also, whenever you are using your drop-down values or the custom fields or the segments with the privileges, you have to make sure these are the prerequisites which are being taken care already in the target environment. Moving on, we'll discuss on the custom fields which was introduced for DQ or the data quality facet. Earlier to 721, we did not have the custom fields for data quality facet alone. Now we have introduced the same capabilities which were present for other facets for the data quality. And this data quality custom field also participates in the Unison, and the Unison filtering capability, the user can use the custom field. And in the additional to that, the widgets which were present in the dashboard were not editable previous to 721. From 721, you also see an edit option wherein you can edit the dashboard widget for their visualization style or the title or the description. So previously this was not possible. Now in 721 onwards, you'll be able to edit the dashboards once it is created. Now moving on, we'll discuss on the standard fields which can be hide. So if there is no value which has been present, that field will be hidden in the view mode, not in the edit mode, but certain fields might not be having the value defined. And instead of showing as displaying in the view grid as no data available or any, we can hide those fields so that the view of the object itself will be compact and precise whatever is data is present. This is affected for 5 of the facets, that is process, policy, data set, glossary, and system. And this is only applicable to the summary tab of the view. It is not to the other tabs like in the relationships or the impact tab or even any other tabs. It is only at the summary tab. And when you're doing a bulk upload or migrate or export in the maps, this is not going to be impacted there. It is only for the viewing purpose. We are going to hide those fields which are not having any input values. Again, this is available at the system settings at the environments place. So it has the hide fields option, which by default is unchecked. A system or the super admins can go and select this. Moving on, let's talk about the out-of-the-box drop-down options, which can be deleted. This was already introduced in 7.1, but we had restrictions wherein the mandatory field or the default drop-down values we are not able to delete or update, or the out-of-the-box values of the custom drop-down fields were not able to be deleted. Now with 7.2.1, users can delete or update that. There are certain prerequisites which has to be taken care of while you are deleting a drop-down value which is set as a default. So you need to it gives you a warning so that the value is set for a particular object. You need to update that, and then you need to remove them or you need to delete that default drop-down option. There are exceptions again for this. The reason is some of the drop-down values, for example, the Axon status, it has a significance in the unison to be displayed, whether it is active or deleted. Only the active ones are displayed for, or other fields are displayed for the users. When it is set to deleted, it is only displayed for the admin and super admin users. It is not for the web users. So that is the reason we said there is a restriction. That is at the Axon status or the system type or the process types which participates in the lineage maps or the process maps. The same applies to the attribute sourcing type or a dataset lifecycle. These are the things which are used during the onboarding phase, Axon to EDC onboarding phase. We look for the default values, so that cannot be deleted. Apart from that, rest everything can be taken care or it can be deleted. Now, we also introduce some of the notifications enhancement. So as part of that, you can clear the notifications. So this clearing the notifications can be either manual or automated. When we say automated, it is on a periodic basis. So first, let's look at the manual way of clearing. So at the notifications bell icon, you can see there is a catalog, roles, workflow, and bulk upload notifications coming in. So each of the notifications have the clear options. Either for catalog and workflow, you have clear all option, and for bulk upload, all the roles you have accept and clear, or you can clear all without accepting. You can go to the all job section in the my accounts as well. The automatic way or the periodic clearing of the notifications is at the system configurations. Again, this is available at the environment configurations, and you have the clear notifications value which can be set. it takes the number of days as a value. So if you set it to, for example, a 7, after 7 days, the previous 7 days of notifications, whatever is that, it gets cleared automatically. If you don't want this to be cleared at all, you can set the value to 0. That means the notifications will not be removed at all. Then we have the unison filtering, which is provided with respect to the DQ results. You also know how this target and the threshold uh, is represented with the color coding. Whenever the score is more than the target, it is represented in green. And if it is between the threshold and target, it is in amber, and less than the threshold, it is represented in red. So this can be filtered out. The new filter capability called as a result is added to the data quality, and you can select either the data quality scores which are in green, which are in amber or red. So this helps to know which are the rules which are having lesser score, where the stakeholders has to take care of it to enhance the data quality. Now this can be extended again to the dashboard, where you have the visualization by the result, so you can see the similar information in a better pictorial pie chart or any other visualization tool, so that you get the green or the which have been passed or which is performing better, or which are having issues in the data quality. Moving ahead on the EDC integration, in 7.2.1, we are supporting to onboard data sets which are having a duplicate system in the Axon application, right? There was no way to differentiate between two systems. So we have introduced a new column called a system ID, because system IDs are unique. So with the system ID, the onboarding will be able to differentiate between which system it has to use, and based on that, the data sets will be onboarded to the respective systems. These were the capabilities which was added in 7.2.1. So now let's look at the 7.2.2 capabilities. Again, we are focusing on the Unison improvements. We have added the dynamic date filtering option or the last login information, which can be used, and maps enhancements to capture the legends or the system interface information, additional bulk uploads, which we have provided. And when it comes to the Axon ADC integration, we have started supporting Informatica MDM as additional resource, and some additional fields for the Tableau, which was supported earlier. From the data quality integration perspective, we are adding ADLS Gen 2 and Parquet file on Amazon S3 as additional source types. And there are a bunch of notifications which are sent out to the users with respect to the data quality score change, or even not the email, which workflow can be tagged where the users are tagged. On the net new capabilities perspective, we have added the SSO support for quick look. There is a multi-select custom field type which has been introduced. Earlier, it was only a single drop-down, single selection. Now it is a multi-select which has added. And there is also an option to transfer the ownership of the shared searches or the dashboard once the user is inactive or left the company, right? So those ownership can be transferred to the next available user who is available in the Axon. So let's look at each one of them in detail. As I mentioned, in the Unison date filter, you have the dynamic date filter capability, wherein you can say the last 10 days. Suppose if you are looking at the created date, right? Any date filters, when it comes, you have this option. You want to see at the last 1 month what all the objects which was created, or at the user level, based on their last login, when was the user last logged in, or you want to see in a date range of last specific month of April who are all logged in. So from date and to date can be given, and it helps in the Unison filtering. Sorry, let's go to the next set of enhancements, wherein it comes in the maps. As I mentioned, we have provided a legend which describes on what are the different lines it represents, like the dotted lines with the color coding, what is an interface, whether it is a inbound relationship or an outbound relationship, whether it is an attribute lineage. So all these information, the legend is provided in the maps. Users can click on it, they can get to know of it. Now, the other new feature or the capability is to display the system interface in the lineage. What is from one system to another system, we have the lineage which has been defined, but it was not displayed on the maps. So users can use a switch to show or hide those interface information. So in this way, they can toggle those. Coming into the bulk upload, we have introduced two new bulk upload capabilities. One is System X onboarding tool that is helpful for the Axon EDC integration. So associated rules or the new rules which are present in the admin panel that can be used. And the second one is on the data quality and stakeholder. Previously, this was not available. So this is applicable to both standard data quality rules and local data quality rules. Uh, Moving ahead on the notification improvements, two new email notifications are added. One is the email once the user is tagged in the change request comment section. In the comments, a user can be tagged using the @ as a flag. So if a user is mentioned, immediately a notification is sent to the user as mentioning that whatever they have given as a comments, it will be displayed so that the users can take an action on it. The second one is on the data quality score, which is moving. Suppose there is a degradation of the data quality score from green to amber, that is on the from the target value more than target to the lesser than the target. So you get a notification, if not from green to red or amber to red. Whenever there is a degradation from one level to the another level, the email notification is sent out to the dataset stakeholder or the data quality stakeholders to inform them immediately on the data quality rule or the score degradation. Then the simplification of object deletion. You all know there is a bunch of restrictions which have been applied, like whether the stakeholder is present, relationship is present, which has to be removed or taken care of. Most of them we handle it. We display the warning message, and then users once click on S and continue, it will be taken care from the system in the backend. Some of them we are not still able to take it up because there is a lot of other dependencies which users has to manually remove them. To give you an example, for glossary, alias removal was a mandatory earlier. That has been taken care. Or the system to be deleted has a data set and the data quality rule. So that is handled by the system itself. If you want to delete a data set, you already have an attribute. You don't have to delete those attributes. It is taken care from the system. These deletes are a hard delete. That means you are removing it from the system, and these are performed by the super admins only. Then we have the multi-select custom field option. So previous to 722, we had only a single selection. Now you can create a custom field of type multi-select dropdown, and you can provide those values. And during the object creation or during the usage, you have an option to select multiple fields so that you can have those values available. And this has been a very major request for most of the customers as well as on the implementation side as well. This has been introduced in 722. Moving ahead, we have the SSO support for Quick Look, the desktop application version. So there in the configurations, you have the login with option where you can use the refresh token. There is a refresh token which can be retrieved from the Axon UI of the customer, and the refresh token can be set to 30 days or 60 days maximum duration as well. So provide those refresh tokens, give the host and port information, and SSO is configured for the dashboard application, which is the quick look. The API changes or the new APIs which were introduced for the change request. The change request, create, retrieve, start, update, all the actions which are to be performed on the change request itself, the APIs have been added to that. So using these APIs, you can perform the operations on the change request. Now let's discuss on the transfer of ownership. This is when the user is inactive and he owns some of the saved searches or even the dashboards that can be transferred to the existing or the users which are active in the system. So in the admin panel, you can see the option as the ownership under the operational management, ownership transfer. Both dashboard and the search will be displayed, and it lists only the users which are inactive on the dashboards or searches which they are owning. Select any of them and click on the transfer ownership. You can see a list of new owners which has to be selected, and you can do a transfer of ownership there. That's it from the 722 perspective. Let's quickly look at the 723 new features. 723 was released in Jan 2022, and it had a bunch of new capabilities as well. We introduced the quick look browser plugin in 723. We also had the Unison dashboard enhancement in this release as well. And we also came up with the data marketplace collection view to be displayed in the Unison for the filtering of the data sets. And on the integration perspective, Axon EDC, we supported a bunch of new resources, either that was on Azure Synapse, Blob Storage, Google Cloud Storage, and SAP S/4HANA. We also supported onboarding the synonyms for the relational database sources. And from the Axon and DQ integration perspective, we supported Amazon Redshift and partition Parquet file on Amazon S3 as the new sources. Now the changes can be coming into the relationship of the prerequisites for linking a data set or an attribute with a process policy in project was removed. And there was a bunch of dashboard interaction improvements, the hyperlink navigations, and the hierarchies of the page enhancements, object page enhancements. And most importantly, we started on the accessibility compliance towards the WCAG 2.0 standards. The journey started in 723. We'll cover more on the next releases, how it goes. So a quick look browser plugin is a net new capability or the feature which we added. This is a browser extension, just similar to your current whatever we have, the desktop application. This is a browser-based application, and it is a very lightweight tool. And this is configurable to look at the facets, just like in your Unison, what all the facets you're interested, you can look at it. Unlike your desktop application where you can see only the glossary, here you can search across all the facets, system, process, policy, whatever it could be. And the search results navigate how the results, once it is navigated, it takes you to the Axon object page directly. And it has an authentication mechanism supported by across all like SSO, LDAP, and native user. It also supports the hotkeys. Whenever you're in the browser mode, you can use the hotkeys and you can enable the extension, or even if you're browsing through some of the websites and you highlight some of highlighted text and hit on the hotkey, it directly takes that as a search text and opens the application too. Currently, it supports the Chrome and the Microsoft Edge browser, which is a Chromium-based browser. So those two browsers have been supported. Users can download from the help center or even from the application, and IT users can push this to the entire organization as well. Moving ahead on the data marketplace collection information to be displayed in the Unison. So whenever you have the data marketplace enabled and you have the data collections present, you will see a new column called as data collections under data set. This gives a hyperlink, and it is a data collection information, or it gives you the category to which the collection belongs to, and users can click on that and navigate directly into the data marketplace. Also, this is present in the object details page. There again, you have if there are multiple data collections for a data set, It will become separated, and it gives you the on hover the definition on the category details of it. It can also be used for the filtering purpose, so you can know how many data sets have been published to the data marketplace and what are not been published as well. Next, the Unison and the dashboard enhancements, which have been part of the 723. Wherever you see the created by or the users which you have come up, right? So we have introduced a new field, which is parameterized basically to the current logged in user. If you want to know the list of objects which are owned by individual members in your team, you can do a saved search. The saved search takes the parameter of the current logged in user, and it can be exported to the dashboard. So all your team members will see the objects respective to them, which have been created or which they are owning, which are they are part of the stakeholder also. So as I mentioned, the user which can be it can be used in the people facet as well for the stakeholdership level as so. Now moving ahead, we have the changes for the process policy and project relationship with data set or attribute. Previous to 723, there was a prerequisite or a mandatory relationship to be established between these process policy or project to system and the glossary to which the data set belongs to or the data attribute belongs to. That was a prerequisite. Without linking the system and glossary, we were not able to link the data set. Now from 723 onwards, we have got rid of this as an exception. You can link the process policy or project to the data set directly without linking them to the system or glossary. If you have that linking, it still holds good. It should not cause any harm, but going forward, any new relationship to be established, you can directly link it to the data set. So based on this, we have changes on the Unison search to display both directly and indirectly related objects. Whenever you're searching for a process, it is not only the data set, it is also the data set linked through the system or the glossary or through an attribute. So these are the indirect relationship. And the other way around also the same. If you're looking for the data set, you bring in the processes which are directly linked or through attribute, glossary, or system. On the dashboard side of enhancements, we have brought in the hyperlinks where you can click on the hyperlink from the pie chart, where especially with respect to the change request, you have the pie chart which shows on the date filtration, like the less than 7 days or 30 days or more than 30 days. So clicking on that, the users are navigated to the My Account page to the particular change requests which are present, and the filter is applied. You can see the filter is applied, and you can also see a button called as Show All. Clicking on the Show All will remove those filter in the My Accounts page so that they can see everything. Similarly, when it is coming into the roles which are not accepted, the user is navigated to the responsibilities tab. It goes to the particular facet and also applies the filter of roles not selected. Previously, this was just navigating the users to that page. The filtering was not applied. All those things have been enhanced or improved. Let's quickly look at the security and the accessibility changes which have been introduced in 723, and then look at the PAM for all the three releases. From the accessibility point of view, as I mentioned, we have started our journey there to make the application WCAG 2.0 compliant standard. As part of that, we have addressed most of the critical and the high issues related to the tabs, navigation bar, drop-down menus, and the autocompleter, which is a quick search. This will continue, and we are going to address more of it on almost all of the issues in 7.3, which is coming up in June 2022. And on the security perspective, we know that we had faced Log4j zero-day vulnerability, and it has been addressed in two phases. One is in 7.2.3, which came out in January, had the agent side of fixes that contained the Log4j version 2.17.1. And then from the core Axon perspective, it uses the Elasticsearch. Elasticsearch uses the Log4j 217.1 version, and this was released in February 28. So a quick update on the PAM for all the 3 releases. We have continued to support all the latest versions of the operating system, RHEL 8.4 in 721, 8.5 in 723, and coming at the platform side, DQ, all the EDC, all the DPM, any new versions coming out in every quarter, 10.501 or 10.51 or 10.511. Every release we tend to support the latest and the greatest one. EDC resources, we are just spoke about them briefly. In each of the releases we added new resource capabilities as well. Active Directory 2019 was supported in 7.2.3 onwards, and the Kubernetes support came in from 7.2.2. We have a utility for that. Using that utility, which is packaged, we have a documentation also. Kubernetes support was added in 7.2.2. And in 7.2.3, we also extended that support for external Postgres SQL DB. So this was a quick update on the PAM. From the hardware specification point of view, it remains the same from 7.2, low, medium, and high configurations. And for any production, I would just contact the support for any details. Make a note of the CPU clock speed and the disk transfer speed, which is recommended for optimal performance. So that's the quick update on Axon data governance. Over to you, Ian. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Pradeep. Hi, I'm Ian Stahl. I'm a Senior Director of Product Management for Data Governance Solutions here at Informatica, and I'd like to provide you an overview of the work that we've been doing for Axon Data Marketplace in the 7.2 series over the course of the last few months. Many of you may be aware that we've delivered a governed data marketplace on Axon. It's a feature of the Axon Data Governance solution and allows consumers to be able to shop for data in an easy, convenient merchandising storefront experience. Data owners create the data that they want within the rules that are governed by the data governance team. So they determine what data they want to make available to analytics, data science, and other consumers on the basis of what it is, which systems it originated from, what's its content, what's its quality, what policies drive the basis of its release. And that governance provides the guardrails that allow for consumers to easily find the data that they're looking for. They can browse different categories or topics of data, search for data that's maybe more specific to their needs for their analytics project or data science project. And then Marketplace gives them all the information they need to make an informed consumer decision, if you will. Understanding the quality of that data, understanding its business and technical content, understanding the policies that control the usage of that data, understanding how they can get that data. If they like what they see, they can just press a button and request that data, and then we orchestrate the workflows that deliver that data to them, automating the provisioning of that data as needed to be able to make that data available to the place where they need to. And this can be augmented with other processes like ServiceNow, which we integrate with the Marketplace order processor to be able to provide that additional overlay. Marketplace is really designed to allow data consumers to be able to easily find the data they want, which allows your data to be more broadly distributed within the organization. Greater trust and compliance of that data because they know the policies and quality of that data. Also, the organization gets benefits from broader and more consistent use of the data by just distributing the data that you put a lot of time and effort into stewarding to more consumers. And overall, that reduces the cost of operations by lowering the cost of provisioning data to consumers for various projects because you can reuse the same data over and over again, coupled with the fact that we're automating a lot of the production and delivery of that data using our platform, using the Informatica platform. With that in mind, the roadmap that we've had for Marketplace has had a number of priorities since its inception back in 2019. Major one is operational. So being able to incorporate Marketplace into your data ops and data engineering runtime so that you can make data assets more seamlessly and easily available to your consumers. And we've done a number of things there over the 7.2x series to be able to make that more broadly available. I think a prominent one is the introduction of Marketplace APIs in the Axon REST endpoint. So similar to the way you can use APIs to be able to both create and update and manage governance content on the Axon side, we also expose content and functions inside the Marketplace service via the API layer as well. This facilitates data publication, data collection management, order processing, some new ones that we've introduced in the 7.2 series recently, actually with 7.2.3 in January, is management of the delivery target. So being able to say, I delivered to this endpoint and I can give that data to you there. Managing the consumer access. So for example, if you need to be able to turn off access and reflect that back in the Marketplace, that's something that you can do via APIs as well. In addition to that, we've added some additional functions to the order context. This allows for attachments to the order so you can provide documentation pertaining to your request, or the owner can provide documentation specific to their approval of your request. Marketplace merchandising is another major area for us. This is a function that we've been working on quite a bit with Marketplace, just making that merchandising storefront experience more optimal for your consumer audience. We introduced some enhancements to the search, namely exposing the attributes for search. A lot of your consumers are looking for very specific attributes at the endpoint. They want to use those as correlates in their analytics cube or their data mart. We provide for that facility as well. Data collection enhancements, glossary, exposing more glossary information so your consumers have more context about exactly what this data means. Those are important introduction things that we've introduced. Just by way of explanation, the additional order context allows consumers to be able to append documents to their request when they put the Marketplace order in. Also, data owners or technical orders can provide, can attach documentation and guidance to the order, in addition to the documentation that we supply with data collection. So we've provided a support attachment for data collections now for quite some time. So that additional enrichment, right, facilitates collaboration between producers and consumers so that everybody's on the same page about exactly what data they need. And then on top of that, the attached content becomes included as part of the Marketplace order and consumer access grant. So this is auditable over time. So if you need to see, okay, well, what basis did I actually provide this content to the consumer? Well, that information can be provided right there in the order. You can go back and take a look at that. The API work that we've been doing with Axon over the course of the last 6 months or so has really been an important aspect of being able to integrate Marketplace into our customers' data operations, a very important function because they want to use Marketplace to be at scale. Our customers need to be able to want that self-service experience. They want that ease of use and the interaction between the producer and the consumer. But they need it to be backed by a robust delivery engine that can actually plug in to the data environment that's provisioning that data to analytics. And that's actually what we've been using the Marketplace API set for. This diagram is representative of a typical model which uses Axon and Marketplace, the API endpoints that we provided, to automate the processing and delivery of data in response to Marketplace orders. In this case, using Marketplace in conjunction with Enterprise Data Catalog and application integration on the Informatica Data Management Cloud to be able to intercept orders, view the content of that order, retrieve the technical metadata associated with that order, and then on the basis of that technical metadata and the other content of the order, make effective decisions about how they want to provision the data. Marshalling data integration mappings to be able to execute the provisioning of that data to an endpoint in the data lake or downstream in the analytics environment where that data may need to be provided. I should mention that actually this capability that we've introduced with the API layer that was depicted in this diagram was showcased recently with our friends at AWS at their AWS reInvent conference back in November of last year. And if you want to know more information about this, you can go to the data democratization page at Informatica. We have a lot of information about how this sort of lake formation capability facilitated by those APIs that we've introduced in 7.2x are enabled. So you can get more information from the Informatica.com about that. That's everything that I had to cover today. I know we're going to go into Q&A here shortly, so just thank you for your time, and thank you for your continued interest in Axon Data Marketplace. We're very excited about this functionality, and we hope you are too.
Hello everyone. If you have any questions regarding the session, please post them in the Q&A box. We'll try and answer them. Over to you, Ian.
Absolutely, yes. While we're waiting, I thought I would mention as I just mentioned, we're very excited about the data marketplace capability. Had some questions come in from data marketplace. One is from participant Frederico. He had asked if we should expect to have a multi-data marketplace capability in the Axon 7.2 series. And Frederico, thank you for asking that question. It's a good question. As many of you know, and I think I mentioned this in my overview, that Marketplace deploys as a microservice in the container where Axon Data Governance runs. So effectively, they use the same runtime. And that stands to reason because we're using obviously a lot of the same content, a lot of the same metadata, as well as a lot of the same services, the same workflow services, the unison search, things like that, to be able to surface content into the marketplace. In that container, right, there's one Axon instance, and correspondingly, there's one marketplace instance. And that is a limitation, I guess I would say, of the marketplace, but it's really, I think, just fundamental to the way that the capability is built. Some of you may be aware that we've been working on a corresponding capability in the cloud to be able to support data marketplace. And in that capability, which we introduced just earlier this year on the Intelligent Data Management Cloud, we take advantage of the multi-tenancy capability. In fact, IDMC supports a multi-org model to be able to provision multiple marketplaces on the same Informatica cloud tenant. So that capability is something that we did introduce there. It really largely depends on the multi-tenancy capability, which is probably why we contribute to run that there. So thank you for asking that question, Frederico. I see one more question just came in regarding marketplace attribute search. Michelle had asked this question. Thank you for asking that question, Michelle, and thank you for participating in the webinar today. Will marketplace search attribute search return results for all data sets an attribute is in? Yeah, so what we do is we key on the attribute name value in the search parameter, and it acts as a filter. So we identify the attribute, and then we return that attribute. So the attribute is specific to the data set, which is in turn stored within the system. So the attribute participates in a hierarchy. So just to be clear, Michelle, I think that what we return is an attribute that we use for unison search lookup, and then that attribute will return all the data collections where the data set that that attribute is contained in is linked. So we return multiple relevant data collections, but only one data set corresponding to that collection. Hope that helped. I see several other questions coming in, I think related to Axon Data Governance. So I definitely want to give Pradeep some airtime here. Pradeep, if you want to take a stab at some of these questions that came over.
Thanks, yeah. So there were a couple of questions on the data governance as well. To start with, one question from Karna from Deloitte Consulting, right? She mentioned about the REST API when the SSO is enabled. to use the REST API for the login or the authentication? That's a nice question, wherein SSO is basically for the web user or the browser's authentication. We still allow the authentication from the backend to the REST clients. So the authentication will be for the native users, and you can refer to the REST API guide, which has this in detail. And the next question was from Ian McLean on the 722 capability, where we send out the DQ score when it drops. We send out an email notification. So if the stakeholder is having 10 different data quality, whether it sends a single email or 10 emails. To answer that, it is the instant email notification. It is not a digest notification. As it is an instant notification, it will be 10 different emails, and each email will consist of the data quality rule details and what is the data quality which has been reduced. There's a couple of highlights, and I see multiple other things wherein Anupreet Chabra from the POT, he asked about the creation of custom facets in addition to the existing facets in Axon. No, that is not being supported. That is not available in the Axon. You cannot create a custom facet. You can only create a custom field, or you can create the objects. That's it. There is no option to create a facet. That's the quick ones or the highlight ones which I can take up. Ian, you want to take up on anything additional to this from the data marketplace?
Yeah, there was actually a joint question, Pradeep, that we might jointly answer that came over from our friend Dewani over at Information Asset. So very good to see you guys again. The question was related to customization of the workflows in Axon and Marketplace. And I guess just answering on behalf of Marketplace, because Marketplace uses, we have a kind of pre-built order processor that's built into the application runtime that manages the lifecycle of orders, of requests for access to data, as well as the lifecycle of the access grant, right? And it's fairly limited in terms of sort of what it offers by way of customization functionality. However, I think the direction that we're taking with that really is focused on exposing the order processor that's in the Marketplace application to some external processor. And the REST APIs that I described in the overview earlier are really key to that. We have a number of customers that are using the API set, which can do things like create orders, update the status of orders, add descriptive content to the orders, participate in the order collaboration queue, as well as manage the lifecycle, withdraw lifecycle access, things like that, to orchestrate updates to the status of Marketplace activity corresponding to processes that happen outside the Marketplace. These could be ServiceNow processes, or they could be processes related to the access control management system for the data lake or whatever data platform the Marketplace is deployed on top of. And the reason for that approach is fairly simple. It's because customers already have the infrastructure. They already have ServiceNow process definitions. They don't necessarily want to replicate those process definitions inside of Axon. It's very unlikely that Axon or Marketplace would provide a workflow capability that's commensurate with what they already have in ServiceNow. So why reinvent the wheel? Just leverage what's already in place, what the customer already has invested in, and what already has adoption within the organization, and actually use that to be able to drive a lot of that operational functionality. So I'd say that's probably, Dewani, that's probably the direction that we're taking with Marketplace workflow customization. On the Axon side, I know we have much more robust workflow customization capabilities, Pradeep, so I don't know if there was anything you wanted to answer there. We have a built-in workflow management engine with customization. So Dewani, you might look at that on the Axon side.
On the workflow customization, we don't have it at the moment. We are doing some enhancements to the existing capabilities or the features, so there's no net new capability which we are going to add. And there was another question which just came in on the usage and the login metrics information to be displayed on the dashboard. So you can keep an eye on 7.3 or watch out for the 7.3 release in June, where we are bringing more information on the trend and the usage statistics. But all these things will be in the materialized view, which we introduced in 7.2. And it is not on the dashboard widget, basically. It will be available as part of your Tableau or the Power BI. The external reporting tool can help you get this information. That's the quick one, which is the last one, I think, the latest one. Apart from that, any further questions, please feel free to ask us or reach out to us. We can answer them and help you out.
And I know we're at time now, Vrinda, so yeah, I don't suppose if there's any other questions. It looks like we got almost every question in the queue. But certainly Pradeep and I are available offline if you guys need to reach out to us. So thank you for your continued interest in Axon, by the way, Axon Data Governance, as well as the marketplace capability that we introduced.
Thank you, Ian and Pradeep. Looks like we're on top of the hour, and it's time for us to wind up the session. Hope we answered all the questions, and if we have not answered any of your questions, we'll get back to you right after the session. Hope everyone is safe. Also, just wanted to call out that the session was being recorded and will be available in the Informatica Support YouTube channel and the Success Portal. You'll also be able to download the slide deck from Success Portal. Also, feel free to put in your feedbacks and suggestions in the post-webinar survey. Also, let us know what topics you would need in the future as your Tech Tuesdays webinars. We will incorporate that in our future webinars. Thanks a lot for joining. Thanks again, Pradeep and Ian, for spending some time for this wonderful session. Hope everyone is safe. Thank you. See you on our next Tech Tuesdays. Bye.
Very much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.